Hi, I'm Yartami. Welcome to my video. So let's start. Imagine a company that can find a needle in a digital haystack made of billions of data points. It is a company that helps governments stop terrorist attacks and helps banks track down international money launderers. Most people have never seen its logo, but it is one of the most powerful software companies on the planet. It started with a small team in Silicon Valley and a crazy idea that almost everyone else thought would fail. This is the story of Palantir Technologies. In the early 2000s, the world was entering a new era. After the 9/11 attacks, the United States government realized they had a massive information problem. They had plenty of data, but it was all disconnected. It was like having a million puzzle pieces scattered across different rooms with no way to put them together. Peter Thiel, one of the founders of PayPal, saw this gap in the system. He had just finished a successful exit with PayPal and was looking for his next big move. Just like Phil Knight looked at the shoe market and saw an opportunity for Japanese imports, Peter Thiel looked at the world of security and saw an opportunity for data. He teamed up with a group of friends, including a philosopher named Alex Karp. They didn't want to build a social media site or a game. They wanted to build a tool that could connect the dots of the digital world. They named the company Palantir after the seeing stones from Lord of the Rings. It was a bold name for a very bold vision. They wanted to use the same technology PayPal used to stop credit card fraud to help the government stop criminals. In the beginning, nobody wanted to invest. Just like the sporting goods stores refused to stock Phil Knight's shoes because they didn't think there was a need for another brand. The big venture capitalists in Silicon Valley thought Palantir was too strange. They didn't believe a software company could successfully sell to the government. They thought the process was too slow, too political, and too risky. But Peter Thiel didn't give up. He used his own money to keep the company alive. He had a personal belief in the product that others couldn't see yet. Finally, they got their first big break. It wasn't a celebrity athlete or a famous coach. It was the CIA. Through a venture capital firm called In-Q-Tel, the CIA invested in Palantir. This gave them the stamp of approval they needed to survive. It was their version of Bill Bowerman joining Blue Ribbon Sports as a co-founder. Suddenly, they weren't just kids with an idea. They were partners with one of the most powerful intelligence agencies on Earth. The technical system they built first was called Palantir Gotham. It was designed for government analysts. Imagine thousands of police reports, bank records, and phone calls all being fed into one system. The software didn't just store the data, it showed the relationships between people, places, and events. It turned boring rows of numbers into a visual map of a criminal network. This was a high-margin business model. Once the software was built, the cost of adding a new user was very low, which allowed for massive potential profits. As the company grew, they used a very specific bottom-up strategy. Instead of just sending a sales team to give a presentation, they sent their own engineers to live and work with their customers. They called these people forward deployed engineers. These engineers would sit next to soldiers and analysts to make sure the software worked in the real world. This created a level of trust that was impossible for their competitors to beat. They weren't just a supplier, they were a partner. By 2010, the legend of Palantir began to grow. There were rumors that the software had helped in the hunt for major world targets. While the company stayed quiet, this word of mouth was more powerful than any TV commercial. Palantir became known as the sanctuary for data analysts who were tired of using old, slow systems. But Palantir knew they couldn't just rely on the government forever. They wanted to expand, just like Nike moved from selling shoes to selling clothes and equipment. They launched a second platform called Palantir Foundry. This was designed for the world's biggest corporations. They started working with banks to stop fraud, with airlines to optimize their flights, and with hospitals to track patient care. This was the moment they transitioned from a niche security tool into a global data giant. The financial concept behind Palantir is all about stickiness. They sign long-term contracts worth millions of dollars. Once a giant company starts using Palantir to run its operations, it is very hard for them to switch to anything else. The software becomes the brain of the entire business. This creates a very stable and predictable stream of income, which is the dream of every investor. However, success often brings controversy. Just as Nike was targeted by activists for its factory conditions, Palantir was targeted by critics who were worried about privacy. People were scared that a company with so much data could know everything about everyone. There were protests and negative media reports. The company had to fight to defend its reputation. Alex Karp argued that their software actually protected privacy by making sure only the right people could see specific information. He believed that in a dangerous world, his software was the good guy. For many years, Palantir stayed private. They didn't need to go to the stock market because they were raising plenty of money from private investors. But in 2020, they decided it was time to let the public join. Instead of a traditional IPO, they chose a direct listing. This was a bold move that allowed their longtime employees and early investors to sell their shares directly to the public. On their first day of trading, the company was valued at over $20 billion. For the early employees who had stayed through the difficult years, it was a massive, life-changing moment. It was similar to when the parents of a Nike employee saw their initial $8,000 investment turn into millions of dollars decades later. Today, Palantir is at the center of the next big shift in technology, artificial intelligence. Their newest system, the Artificial Intelligence Platform, or AIP, is designed to help companies use AI to make decisions in real time. They are no longer a crazy idea from a small office. They are a multi-billion-dollar pillar of the modern digital economy. The story of Palantir teaches us that the system rewards those who can solve a problem that everyone else is ignoring. It takes a specific mindset to keep going when the banks and the experts tell you that your idea is impossible. Whether you are selling shoes from the trunk of a car or building software for the world's most powerful agencies, the principles of growth remain the same. You need a product that genuinely works, a team that shares your vision, and the courage to take a leap of faith when the timing isn't perfect. Palantir proved that you don't have to follow the standard path to build a global empire. You just have to find a way to make sense of the chaos and provide a product that people can't live without. The world of data is only going to get bigger. Information is the new currency, and Palantir has built the most efficient bank for that currency. They showed that an underdog can challenge the giants of the tech world if they have a better system and a stronger conviction. So, what is your version of the crazy idea? Because if we learn anything from these stories, it is that the future belongs to those who are willing to build it themselves. You don't need $1 million to start. You just need a vision and the discipline to keep moving forward. As a famous brand once said, you just have to do it.